So yeah, you're not from Texas, clear.
Yeah.
What's your story? How did you end up here in Texas?
So back in 2010, my little sister and I just decided to buy a ticket over to the United States. I do have an uncle. There was a reason that he lives in McKinney and he's in real estate as well. And so we were like, okay, well, we're going to travel the world. Australia is so isolated. So we were going to come over and make Texas our base. So we were just going to come visit Texas for a little bit. The NFR was on at the time. And so Guy McLean had a horse show, and he had a spot right outside the Thomas and Mack, and my sister and I got a job so that we could be there for 2 weeks just shoveling crap. Yeah. And that's what we did so that we were able to go to Vegas, and it was great. But we met a lot of people from Stephenville there. And that's eventually what
Cowboy capital of the world.
Yeah.
Jacket Nation.
Exactly. So that's how I kind of met a lot of the people that were connected to like Dylan's world.
So, okay, you're traveling the world. Is this summer in the high school year? Is this post-high school?
No, I was 21 at the time when I left. So it was, I grew up on a cattle ranch in Australia. It was just a little over 180,000 acres my family had.
Just a little over.
Just a little. Yeah. And so we grew up pretty isolated. And when I graduated high school, I went over to, I didn't go to college. I went to South America on a scholarship for Rotary International. And so I lived over in Peru for 12 months. And then once I did that, I went back and worked on the family ranch. And I guess we call it Jillaroo. Like, you ranch hand around and work on other cattle properties. And I kind of got sick of it. And I was like, okay, let's try something else. And Texas, honestly, is the cooler version of what we have in Australia. Like, we're like, I would say like the rough version of it. We're so isolated from everything. I grew up like 8 hours from town.
So this is like Central Australia, middle of the desert.
This is like everything on steroids that I love. Like you get to have like the Western way of living, but like you can also go to a rodeo, 45 minutes that way or 10 minutes that way, and like have nice food on Saturday night, and like you can live that lifestyle without having to not see other humans for a couple months at a time.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, yeah, this sounds cool though, to be 8 hours. So you're 8 hours from town, like so
Yeah, I was 8 hours from town. Like, so.
Did you fly? Or did you drive it?
Driving. And I say
so
that.
Getting groceries.
To get groceries. I was about to say, I was 8 hours from like a town that had like a grocery store.
Okay.
So like we would have like much smaller towns on the way.
Towns, they just don't have.
But they don't. Stores. They're just really small. Honestly,
yeah. They're like Bluffdales or like.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Super small. Yeah. There's always a pub in Australia. No matter where you go, how small it is, there's a pub.
Okay.
So there's always somewhere to get a beer.
It's the same in Texas.
Is it just is it like deserty? Or is it like this? Is it like lots of rain?
Some of the terrain is like this. Like where I grew up, one of the places that we had was a bit like this, like beautiful, larger trees, good grass, good soils, and then some of it's pretty desolate.
Okay.
Yeah, like so more like we call it the downs, and that's when I was younger where I grew up, and there's not a tree for miles and miles and miles. Yeah, but we would drive, and so our education, we were sent to boarding school because we were so far away from good education. You were homeschooled until you're about 11, and then in order to get a good education, you were sent to boarding school.
Okay.
So that's kind of
where was your boarding school?
So I would drive the 8 hours. We got on a flight for 2.5 hours, got on another bus for an hour, and it was in the southern part of the state. So we were up in the north. I'm from North Queensland, just outside of Brisbane, Toowoomba, in Queensland. So is where I went to boarding school.
That's wild. My mom went to boarding school. She grew up in like super jungles of Bolivia. She was a missionary kid.
Yes, I love that.
And then same thing, like you're with home, you're with the family, but then at high school she went to boarding school in the city.
Yeah.
In Bolivia, and so that was her existence.
I've been to Bolivia. It's pretty
cool. Is Peru like pretty awesome place, or you're like don't care to go back?
Well, as an 18-year-old girl, I had to learn to love it because it was an eye-opener. I'd never been to a third world country in my life. And so I remember flying in and looking down and almost looked like ant piles, but like human-sized ant piles. And honestly, it was homes of like cardboard boxes like that they were putting, and that was over the airport as you fly in. And so I'll always remember, like, so now as like I've traveled a lot of the world and I appreciate that. So very cool. It's an amazing place.
Yes.
But at the time as an 18-year-old girl, I didn't think so. I was pretty overwhelmed and thought, oh my gosh, what is this? But yeah, it's amazing. I did the Machu Picchu when I was there.
Did you do the 3-day
I did.
hike?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I thought was it 3 or 4? Yeah, it was the whole. I did the whole hike. It was.
Well, I think they have like a 7-day trail.
No, I did the
trail
7. Yeah, I did the
day.
7.
Okay.
We did the whole thing. Like, so it was amazing. And my sister flew over to meet me and do that. And yeah, I ended up like didn't know a lick of the language at all because in Australia we all have like Asian influence, like Japanese. Like we all have that influence. Like we, in our schools, it's French or Japanese that we learn. We don't learn Spanish.
Oh, okay.
So when I went to Peru, like I was in a book like this for 6 months with a headache and using my hands as much as I could. And eventually I ended up being fluent, and it was awesome.
It's pretty like I love Central, like going that whole area. I haven't been to South. Yeah. I've just been to like, Mexico, Belize, and Panama.
Yeah,
I just love it. Like I thoroughly enjoyed every time I go.
Yeah,
it's like you said, it's a different world.
Yes,
but it's I don't know, I like it.
Well, they have an appreciation for life that I feel like we unfortunately forget about in our world here.
Yes, no, you'll say what I found so interesting is people would. In our minds, they don't have a lot, but man, they're fired up about life. That's where I'd see these people. We'd be 3 hours into you drive 3 hours into the jungle, and these people are just as fired up about living as or more than we. Yes, that's what I mean.
Happy.
I'm like, that's a very eye opening. Like, okay, like, hey, I need to.
Well, money is not a variable that produces or takes away happiness. Like
we tend to forget that though.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that is very true, and it is good to travel to places like that because
I think it's a very good. I think everybody should just puts everything in perspective.
It does.
When you have a bad day here, it's like, man.
Yeah.
Like
could be a lot
actually
worse.
pretty good. Yeah.
I like it. We're in good shape.
Dylan, you're also into rodeo. You told me the other day you used to be a professional, like you were on the professional rodeo circuit.
I did for a little bit. I had a really good horse. Well, I grew up traveling, but
look at the
not,
deflection.
not as
did
cool
you
as her.
You guys notice the deflection? No, it wasn't me. It was my horse. Like, I wasn't very good.
That's how she rolls.
Well, so I grew up. My stepdad was a bullfighter, and he rodeoed 300 days a year. Was on the road, so we traveled nonstop as well. But we went to every rodeo grounds in America instead of really cool places in other countries, but so yeah, I grew up.
I think America's got some really. So when if you've seen a lot of the country, then
seen a lot of
so that's cool.
Yeah, America, that's for
great.
Sure. So grew up traveling a lot, doing that. Then I went to college on a rodeo scholarship. I had a really nice horse and didn't make it too far in college at that first try because I just started pro rodeoing and used him while I could. Sometimes you don't know how long you have a horse for, or something can happen or they can get hurt. So he ended up getting hurt a couple years into it. So I rodeoed for a while, a few years on my own, just traveling America.
So
my
you
dog
were doing
and me.
You were at school at WT, right, in Kenyon?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So at this point, I graduated high school, came to Stephenville area, and then started just rodeoing. So then I pretty much lived in my horse trailer with my dog and my horses and traveled, came home in the summer for a month or two, and then did it all over again. And then once my horse got hurt and I took some time off, I went back to college.
Okay.
Then I went to WT in Canyon, and then I came to Tarleton and got my master's.
How was this? So you're 18, traveling, you got your own huge truck, but was it maybe a semi or just
it was
big
just
truck pulling a horse trailer?
Yeah, 1-ton truck and a really big trailer.
How was that? You're traveling the country on your own.
When you think about it now, I'm like, what was I doing? But I was just doing it.
Yeah, and your dad was like, go get it, girl.
They're like, go. We'll see y'all in a few months.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What do you, when you look back at those memories at that, I mean, that's when all of us are formed and shaped. Like, what do you take away from that time and that independence?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I don't know if I could even do it again now. Like, if someone was to tell me, okay, well, go do that. Like, you're just so young and fearless, and you don't think about pulling over at a rest stop and someone kidnapping you or murdering you or anything like that. Like, you're just living life, and I'm really blessed I got to do that.
I think if you think of, like, I have discovered, if you think too much about like what could happen, you're not going to do a lot.
You're
of
not going to do it.
You have to just, like, that's what I'm learning. Like, you just got to just get out there and start taking it.
Yeah.
So
my wife, when she was, I don't know, 20 or something, her parents like got her a plane ticket and she backpacked Europe by herself for a few months. And it's like, we just think about, man.
What
and that scares me. The thing about the rodeo world is I was going all these places by myself and traveling by myself, but every rodeo grounds I got to, it was everyone I've known my whole life. And we're just a little carnival moving from place to place. So
so you're not just showing up somewhere with people you didn't know.
Yeah, if you need help
and the rodeo world, it's not like, I don't know. To me, you're not worried about them.
No, really. That's right.
It's like
a family. They're all family. Yeah.
And it's like they all have the same value system for the most part.
Let's see how small of a world it is. Do you know Kim Schultz? Yeah. She was a barrel racer for a while. She got all right.
Darn it.
Not a small world. It's a big world still. Yeah. That's awesome. So how did you get into real estate? You said you both have been doing real estate for 10 years each. So you were doing it?
So actually in that time period of me rodeoing, and when I was slowing down a little bit, I got my real estate license. I started working for a realtor as an assistant, and then ended up getting my license. And then I just kept it active, and I went to college, and that was kind of my like part-time job. I did it part-time and went through school and did all kinds of jobs, but just always had it kind of
as an agent or as an assistant.
As an agent at that point through school and stuff. And so, it's really hard to do this job part-time knowing what I know now, but I didn't want to lose the real estate world or lose that license. But then I had this passion for geology and environmental science and stuff. So I was just trying to keep them both going and juggling them both and hoping someday they would merge together, which ended up, I feel like I didn't waste my whole time going to college. I feel like I use what I've learned a lot. I didn't know if I would ever full time go into real estate. I was just going to see which one took me somewhere. Yeah. But I ended up really, whenever I started being full time and meeting her and being at the Platinum Group, is when I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Do you think like being assistant for all those years, like really helped you now that you're because you're an assistant to a realtor, right? Mm-hmm. So like, was he like a killer or she, or was was it like did it actually help you knowing now than just going straight into as a realtor?
I can't imagine someone just getting their license and being like, okay, I'm a realtor. Let me sell your house. Like, you learn in real estate school. They teach you things, but you don't know how to actually do it out in the real world. Like it's like your ticket into the real estate world, but now you have to learn how to be a realtor. Yes. There's so much to it. So if you're not joining a team or working under somebody or being an assistant first, I think you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Doing yourself a disservice.
It's like a false start. Mm-hmm. You think you're getting ahead, but really you're just not building a foundation.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't like to hear, well, you need to go work under someone. Like, no, I just got my license. Like, I want to be self-employed. And like that is the goal. Yes, but you got to learn.
It allows you to have confidence because like when you actually you already knew all the, I'm assuming, all the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
So.
How did you get into? You said your uncle was in real estate, but was that your path?
I honestly, obviously ended up. I got married when I just 10 months after I'd landed here, pretty much in Texas, and then stayed. And so honestly, I didn't go to university. I didn't go to college, and I wasn't going to do that over here. And so it was all I could do, really. I was like, I had an uncle in it, and he's very good. Bernie Utridge with Icon Global. I'm pretty proud. He sold the Waggoner Ranch. So he's an amazing mentor for me, and obviously always admired him and what he did. And kind of wanted to be him, but I just lived life and never kind of settled down. And then when I got married and settled down in Texas, I was like, what am I going to do?
I
like,
have to pay bills.
How am I going to make money? Like, life is like, I'm not traveling the world anymore. Like, so real estate for me, honestly, really my passion is people. I love meeting people. I love getting to know people, helping people, conversating. But also naturally how I grew up is what I loved, right? And what I knew. That was my education, you know, like the land, cattle, you know,
people.
The people that live it and what you're looking for. And so it kind of just naturally fell into place for me. I was like, okay, I'll go to school for it. Like, cause I could do that, you know, a course. Unfortunately, I think it's too easy to get your real estate license. But fortunately that was something that I was able to step into, and I did. And I was the same as Dylan, just like anyone. I mean, I think I made $15,000 the first year I was in real estate. Like I had a full-time job. There was no way I could.
You started part-time as well.
I was part-time, yeah. And so I was in the medical field. And so scrubs during the day. At lunchtime, I had my hour break. I changed, clocked out, like got in the car, drove, showed maybe one or two places, came back, got in the scrubs, clocked back in. And at that time I didn't have children, so I was able to do it after 5 o'clock as well. So I just busted my ass to try and make it work. But I was the same as Dylan. I worked underneath a very successful local agent out in Abilene. And her name was Brandy Smith, and she's actually opening her own brokerage with Remax now. Oh, nice. And she was amazing. So it's just like anything, you know, you can do really good at something, and people will pat you on the back and talk about it here and there. You do something wrong, and the world is going to hear that Google review. Oh, yeah. like Yelping it, they're Google reviewing it, they're Facebook posting it. Like, you know, so it's really in your favor to go underneath someone and try and not make those mistakes like that, you know, you really could as an agent when you're first, you know, brand new into.